What's up guys, welcome back to Tech Blizzard. I'm Ben and today we're going to be doing a topic that I love to talk about. The future, more specifically, the phone of 2030. Now, you might think, how could anyone even imagine what a phone 9 years from now could even look like? Well, it's always fun to guess. So in this video, we're going to be diving into some rumors, some possibilities, but first, we're going to start off with the past. Let's look at the last 10 years of innovation we've seen in phones. Make sure you guys stay tuned to the end, for we will be covering the big, just crazy experimental ideas that could possibly be in 2030 phones. Alright, let's get started. Starting off with the core function of the phone. Communication. Our phones were invented for communication. And initially, what they call 0G, or the 0th generation of wireless technology, I mean, 0 meaning it's not really there, so it was just cords, all that. But in around 1979, early 1980s, we saw 1G, a revolutionary piece of technology that allowed people to get on a phone wirelessly. What a breakthrough. Not like this. This is some old stuff, but I don't know. I tried to pick some backgrounds that fit the theme, but 2G after 1G, which could only do calls, that was pretty big. 2G allowed encryption in the actual calls, but it also allowed for better communication, like through walls and through buildings. But the biggest thing with 2G was SMS, short messaging service, also known as texting. It's a pretty big thing. Alright, moving on. 3G brought arguably the most important update that we've seen to the generations of wireless communication. The internet. Now, the internet's been around for a long time before this came out public. However, it's now available on your phone. You can now have apps like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter because they're internet-based services, and you can also have multiplayer games and all that. But around 4G is when we start getting really cool stuff we can do with the internet. Now on 4G, we can start streaming more data, and now we can start actually producing data and video calling people and making movies and downloading movies. This is a pretty big thing. Now 5G, that has become public in the last couple of years, has been the next step in this generation, with 5G being obviously a lot faster. It varies depending on what 5G you're using, but if you're going for the theoretical maximum of 5G and the just best speeds you can get, it's over a gigabyte a second. That is insane to think about. 1 gig a second. You could download a 3 gigabyte movie, game, or file in 3 seconds. That's crazy. And the best part about 5G, the main innovation that's coming out of it, is higher resolution streaming services. And now you can have the Internet of Things. The things that we were building on 4G on this 5G network will be so much more sustainable. However, 6G. There's a lot of videos on what 6G could possibly look like and what speeds it could be. But it is rumored, and I've read things that have said 6G at 95 gigabytes per second. I don't know what you're going to be doing downloading that much data or uploading that much data, but it's going to practically replace Wi-Fi. However, depending on your location and all that, it might not. So, the biggest problem with 6G, and we're starting to see this with 5G, is the range. See, as you increase that frequency, you're going to get less range. It's not going to be as strong through objects and stuff. And now that they're increasing it so they can fit more data in it, It's gonna have really, really short range, like within 10 feet or less at 6G, true 6G. And the 5G that's nationwide right now or internationally, most of it is actually like a hybrid between 4 and 5G. It's not true like full speed of 5G, just because it would be too impractical to put a cell tower every inch. But they put them on lampposts on cities, I believe. Anyway, 6G is even worse with this. However, there is a solution. With the rate of devices being created and distributed that have internet connection, think if we had every electronic device that was internet enabled, like a phone or a watch or a computer, why don't we also put relay points in them? So every device also turns into a router for 6G. This would work because by 6G, it would be so many electronic devices around the average person that it would be acceptable, the speeds. And I don't think dropouts would be that common. And if we do, we could always jump back on 5G. I think though with satellites, it's going to be really awesome to see what speeds we could possibly get out of it. Like satellite constellations with data and stuff, because that I think is actually the best strategy. Unfortunately, those speeds, I don't know how they're going to look. I think, what was it, Starlink? I think Starlink had like 4G connection. I don't know, I'll double check that. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how 6G is implemented. Alright, now that we've set the basis for cell phones, communication, and what it will look like in 2030, which should be, like I was saying earlier, around 6G should be mainstream around that time, because it happens to be around every 10 years we do see a new generation. And what's crazy to me though, we saw 5G in development, I believe from Samsung or another company, way back. I don't remember the exact year, but it was fairly far back in time, I think. I don't really know that, but I just know those are the rumored specs, since now we're starting to see development on 6G, and we should see mainstream by 2030. So this 2030 phone we have up here is going to have 6G. That's the first feature. Alright, I have this paper here to remind me of the specs, because I'm going to be talking about now performance in specs. So this is going to cover camera, display, RAM, storage, processing power, all of the good stuff. Alright, so before we talk about what we have now and what we'll see in 2030, just like with the generations that I did, I want to cover some history first. Let's jump back a decade. Since we're not going to go to 2011, let's just go to 2010 to keep things even with 2030. So the Galaxy S from 2010 was equipped with a 4-inch 480 by 800 Super AMOLED touchscreen, which was very, very big at the time, as not the display necessarily, but the display technology, the Super AMOLED touchscreen was very big. That was one of their main selling points. It had a 1 GHz processor, a 5 megapixel rear camera, a 0.3 megapixel front-facing camera, a 2 gigs of internal flash memory, only half a gig of RAM, Android 2.1 Eclair. Wow, that was on my Note 8. I believe it's on Pi now. It was on Oreo for a while, but I remember when they used to do the names of the sweets. I wish they still did that. That'd be cool. But had a 1500 milliamp hour battery and was about 10 millimeters thick, so pretty big. Alright, let's go on to a phone at the same age, same year came out, the iPhone 4. A very, very big announcement, because the iPhone 4, before I read this, it was pretty awesome. With that glass and stainless steel design, it was from the future. It really took a take out of 2017, 2018, when all manufacturers pretty much started going to metal and glass sandwiches, which is crazy because it was so ahead of its time. I don't know why they switched back to aluminum. I guess it was because it was thinner and it felt more premium, but eventually they came back. iPhone 4 had a 3.5-inch display at 640 by 960 pixels. It was IPS and LCD. A 1 GHz Cortex A8, same speed as the Samsung phone, I believe. Yes. I don't remember the exact processor that was in the Samsung Galaxy S. But anyways, let's continue. A 5-megapixel camera that could do 480p 30 FPS. It's not bad. For the time, I mean, that's pretty bad for today's standards, but for the time, it's not the worst. It wasn't great, but 32 gigs of internal memory, much more than the 2 gigs on the Galaxy S. This was a much more popular phone than the S, though. So, 500, half a gig of RAM again, and iOS 4 through 7 it had updates through, which was, thing about iPhones, their update life, their product cycle life with updates is very good compared to Android, but Android's getting better, luckily. It actually had a LiPo at 1420 milliamps for the battery and was 9.3 millimeters thick, so a little thinner. So this was pretty cool. That was the history. That's what we saw 10 years ago. And what we're seeing now, let's look at the difference. Now the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it's just crazy, man. It had so much in it, so much power compared to, if we look back 10 years to the iPhone 4. It's pretty crazy. And the Galaxy S21 and 20, same thing. Almost a 7-inch display compared to a 4-inch display. It's a pretty big difference. And the cameras are huge also. So, like some of the big differences between the two phones, or the two generations of 10 years. And that brings up the question, what would the specs look like theoretically? This is all spitball and none of it's set in stone, obviously. Who knows what new tech could bring to the smartphone market. But here's kind of my take on it. I see a 2030 phone with 6G, at least 5G if it's not 6G. I also see at least 8K cameras if they have multiple cameras. Obviously camera under the display because of the fact that we should be seeing this tech within the next 2 years. That's why I think we're going to be doing that. We're going to be seeing a huge jump in performance if we get a breakthrough in a different type of chip technology, because we use silicon right now and we are getting very close to theoretical limits of 2 nanometer, 1 nanometer. I believe the best right now is at 7 to 5 nanometers, and it's going pretty fast. We're getting there very quickly. Phones are getting so powerful. The transistor size has to just be so small. And that's why I was thinking, what if you had, because you have, I mean, it doesn't seem like you have a lot of room in a phone, but I feel like a lot of components could be shrunk down over time. You might have 2 processing units, like dual CPUs, that actually work in parallel, or however they would work, just to increase performance until we find a substitute for a computing solution for chip design that will be able to continue its exponential growth of performance. So I believe this phone will be incredibly powerful if we stay on track with Moore's Law and with just the performance we have now, and we've seen the growth in the last 10 years, what we could see in the next 10 years. It will be holding probably more powerful than this. This is a It's a gaming laptop I think I've talked a bit about before. It's a Intel i5 8th gen with a GTX 1060 Max Q, I believe, and like 16 gigs of RAM. We could be seeing mobile devices more powerful than that and more optimized. It depends. That's a very big stretch to say it would be more powerful than a graphics card, but who knows in 10 years what we could have. We're already seeing mobile gaming becoming a larger and larger portion of the gaming community, which means more innovation. So we've talked about cameras, we've talked about the specs, the basic specs, we've talked about the connection, and let's talk about some special features, because over the last 10 years we've seen a couple items that have kind of popped up, and some have not stayed in phones, some have. Like, for example, I believe there was a Galaxy projector phone or something, and I know another company made a version of it where it was like your phone had a projector built into it. I thought it was so cool, but obviously not a mainstream device due to how thick it was, and its price, I believe, was higher than the standard version. I don't remember exactly. But for the future, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of more rolling tech, more folding and bending and stretching. I don't know about the bending and stretching in every possible degree of angles and stuff unless we have an entire phone PCB that's multi-layer and flexible, that's that compact with that many components without causing a short by a bend or anything. That's going to be very, very interesting to see. I don't think we'll see that. What I think we're going to be seeing is more just folding stuff for the physical phones we have, just more folding tech, maybe more designs that are more stronger and flexible. I also believe we're going to be seeing a huge implementation of AR into the phone and accessories of the phone. I believe we could be seeing more phones that have maybe more features in it that allow for AR and VR applications, and more powerful too, because a couple years ago, and I don't really know if it's still that trendy anymore, but we saw Google Cardboard. You put your phone in, you get a VR experience like an Oculus but in your head. We may see a comeback of those if the phones continue to increase in power. However, we may not, depending on how that's going to work. It's all still up in the air. This is all just concepts, fun stuff. Battery tech, big thing. Graphene. I really hope we get a graphene battery in a phone that's really what graphene might promise, because there's all these promises of graphene that will last a week of battery or even longer, and there's also other new types of battery tech that could be revolutionary to that. I don't know. Fun part of talking about phones that are 10 years from now, you could just say something random, say some futuristic piece of tech, and it might actually end up in the phone, you don't know. And it's always fun to just spitball ideas, so that's why I'm doing this video and stuff. But I believe health integration into the phone is going to be larger. We have smartwatches now, we have chest monitors, we even have smart rings now. But I believe that those will continue to be accessories. I just think the phone will be more integrated with the health of the human that holds the phone. And I think AI and software is also going to be another huge area that's going to just blow up, because we're going to be seeing a more and more optimized version of software every year. We may even see a third major competitor with Android and iOS. We may see the fall of Android or the fall of iOS. Literally so much can happen in 10 years. It's crazy to think, but it would be awesome to see some more competition in that space. I think it's going to be very interesting to see all this unfold. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoy this style of video. If you don't, just let me know. I'll change it up. I just like talking about the future and the far future and all that. And like I was saying, and I think I've said in a couple of videos now that like after 2030, 2040, could be seeing more brain interface devices. We do need a major breakthrough in neuroscience and understanding how the brain works though for that. But if we do, no more physical screens or any of that. That's where the future's. But for now until 2030, I think we're going to be sticking to physical devices. We may not, we may. Maybe glasses, maybe watches, who knows. Alright, thank you for watching. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.